Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show and our usual Monday night roundup. And we've got a pretty much full house near enough tonight, all bar Brownie and Dave. So I'm joined by Lewis Sale, Jason Booker, Stephen Downs, and Gareth Walker. Good evening, lads. How are we all? We well?
Good evening, mate.
Good evening. Full of cold.
And I've just come off
but you're here.
And I've just come off the norovirus, so yay!
Is that the bloody norovirus, or
But there's only one in there.
I think it's norovirus, not norovirus. But anyway,
all right. Jesus,
let's skip away from Downsy's ailments and well, it's a welcome return, I would say, for Downsy. Although you can get through this without coughing and spluttering and puking up, that'd be great.
I was disappointed, Chris, that you didn't read my comment last week in Spanish. I was disappointed. I put lots of effort into that.
What, Google Translate?
No, because I'm fluent in Spanish. How do you know if I've got a Spanish degree? Ah, there you go. I haven't, but
I guess so. You don't, though, do you? This is
no, I don't. No, I did use Google Translate, but you just presumed.
Because I'm right, though, off the point. Anyway, Jay, it's also a welcome return for you, mate. How have you been?
Yeah, not bad, mate. Not bad. We had a conclusion of his charity event, or charity boxing training that had gone on for 8 weeks. On Saturday, we raised 1,500 quid through donations. We had 250 people ringside that had all paid 50 quid a ticket, which were wicked. The atmosphere were unbelievable, and we put on a hell of a show. Like, every fight were brilliant. And yeah, all for a great charity. It's called In the Tank. Basically, it's a mental health charity. Thank you, Lou. Thank you. So yeah, no, it went brilliant. So and I can hopefully now get back on some of the Mondays, because Monday night was taken up by training up until now. So yeah, glad to be back, mate.
We've not missed you.
Thanks, man.
Oh,
I know everybody else has.
Me and Jay are blood brothers now. So
Blood brothers, mate.
Yeah,
that's it, guys. You tell him.
I'm joking.
Let's start with Leeds United then, and Jay, I say, whilst you've not been on the show, on the Monday night show at least, Leeds have been steadily going about their business, and that was the same at the weekend with a comfortable win, albeit only the 2 goals scored, which apparently some Leeds fans aren't happy about. But a win's a win, surely. Yeah, you keep going and you're going well.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be a bit of a thing at the moment that when we win, which is more often than not at the moment, and obviously in this division after relegation, that's tends to be the trend under Daniel Farke. We're a successful side, really. 90 points last season, finishing 3rd, and then in and around the top 2 again so far after 15 games this season. We win, and he gets murmurs that it's boring. We drop any sort of points in any sort of way, whether at home or away, and he should be sacked by I'm not going to say a large majority of the fan base, but certainly a vocal minority, a loud minority. Social media springs up all sorts of weird and wonderful opinions at the best of times, and where Leeds United are concerned, and the style of football is just bizarre. But yeah, I mean, look, QPR are a poor side. They're down towards the bottom for a reason. They're struggling going forward, especially. When teams are setting up in the way that they often do at Ellen Road, sometimes the games are a bit dull because we just have a lot of the ball for having the ball's sake. But aside from that, if we scored all of the big chances that we had, or even half of the big chances that we have, we'd be absolutely fine. We'd be cooking most teams 4 or 5 every week. But the biggest problem that we have is our efficiency. There's consistency and clinicality in front of goal. We just don't take the chances. Even the first goal, I don't know if you've all seen it, but the first goal of the weekend, it's bounced back, it's bobbled in area, it's bounced around 3 times. 3 players should have scored before Bogle slices a left foot. It bounces off at crossbar and goes in. It's ridiculous. But that's the way that it is at the moment. And it was similar last season. It was similar under Bielsa in the Championship as well. We just need 5 or 6 big chances to score 1. Ultimately we win 2-0. And we move on to the next one, I guess.
Is this an element of there's always got to be something at Leeds to moan about for the fan base? For certain section of the fan base to have a moan about. Like, as you say, it's a situation now where you're winning more often than not, but somehow you're just not winning well enough. Like, just take the points and be happy, surely.
It's a real bizarre thing. Like, I've seen some fans say that the atmosphere and the excitement around match day was better when we were crap. when we were finishing 16th in the championship. And I'm stood there thinking, what are you talking about? Like, in what world does that make any sense? The atmosphere at times at Ellen Road over the Daniel Farker era has been a little bit stale, but I think it's got more to do with relegation from the Premier League, the Bielsa widowerness that we kind of feel, because I know a lot of fans still hark, and I'm one of them, but I understand that times move on. I'm not saying that Daniel Farker shouldn't be hit with a stick because he's not Bielsa and he doesn't play Bielsa's football. That just doesn't make sense to me, but some fans attach that. I also think because we've now had 3 years in the Premier League, the desire and the passion and the enthusiasm around getting there isn't the same as what it was under Marcelo. So I think that's part of it. But this style of football conversation for me is just bizarre. Like, if anything, it's better than Bielsa's. And I find that hard to say because I love Bielsa's style of football. Is it more exciting? No. Is it more attractive to watch? No. But is it actually more efficient, more pragmatic? Does it get better results? Well, the results will tell you that it does. Now, you could argue that we have a better team than we did back then. I'm happy to debate that. But the facts are, last season were our record points total at this stage of a championship season after 15 games, and that was Daniel Farker. And now we've broken that record again at the weekend. 29 points after 15 games is our record total again. And that was under Daniel Farker, not under Marcelo Bielsa. So for me, like, the style of football should be attractive enough that you're scoring and making chances, which we are. It isn't Daniel Farker's fault that the strikers are not putting the ball in the back of the net when they should. So I just see a very balanced view on it. And the idea that it's boring is just bizarre to me. It's just really bizarre.
I think it's not just the Leeds issue, this whole what is exciting, what is not exciting, etc. Possession style and how some people view that as dull, myself included at times. And then other people all love the domination of the ball, and if it's successful, it seems to be a bit of a wider football thing, I think, on that front in terms of this whole style of play thing. I mean, Christ, West Ham fans have been banging on about the West Ham way for donkey's years, and still, like, in the last 20 years, nobody's any the wiser to what the West Ham way bloody is. So
yeah, it's true. And you know what else as well, Chris? I think a lot of fans, I've said this on the show before, and a lot of casual fans will give me absolute pelters for it, but I'll keep saying it. A lot of fans don't know what they're watching when they're watching it. They kind of put together with the performances. How many goals did we score? Is that good enough? Now, if the exact game had played out at the weekend, but we'd have taken another 2 of our chances and won 4-0, everybody would be buzzing with the performance and the result. But because the striker has missed 2 of the chances, the style of football isn't then good enough. Whereas I see it as, well, we're limiting these teams to no shots on target, as well as then dominating and creating a hat full of chances going forward. I love it. We've conceded 6 shots on target in the last 6 games. Like, all of you sat here would be crying out for that if your team could have that level of dominance over a game. That's what we've got. In 4 of them 6 games, we've not conceded a single shot on target. Not a single one. And Plymouth were limited to no shots at all.
Sounds a bit dull, really, doesn't it?
Well, maybe that's the problem. Maybe it's just too easy, Chris. Sometimes, you need a bit of trepidation attached to it, and I think Leeds fans are a bit guilty of that. We like to have the danger element of, this could go wrong, and there were an element of the Bielsa football. I think Liverpool probably on the Klopp is similar to this. That it's quite exciting, the fact that you can get countered. For me, no. I keep them at arm's length and don't let them have a shot. We've got the hologram in there. We don't need shots going in at our goal. We don't win as many games. So no, for me. Keep on going the way that we're going.
I mean, has everybody else got any thoughts on this before we kind of move on to looking ahead?
Yeah, I think you've kind of touched on it already, and we talked about it in the group chat today, didn't we? About how exciting is different to I enjoyed it. It's different to we controlled it. It's different to we played a game of excellent quality. It's all different, and people look at different things in the game. I think your analogy to Klopp's very, very apt, because people do see the excitement, the edge of the seat thing, the end-to-end thing. Some people just want to see that. They don't want to see a controlled performance, a dominant performance. But I was just going to ask you, again, I think we've talked about it before on the pod, how much is this, what's the word? It's not negativity, but these complaints, like we've not scored enough, or we've lost a game, Farke needs to go. How much of that do we still think is out of this desperation to go up this year and this need to we have to go up, we can't not go up, and they're just not going to accept, they're just looking for something to criticise? Or how much do you think is that?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think 50% of it is that, and 50% of it is the Bielsa widownness.
Yeah.
Like, I think fans have become so entitled and so spoiled after what we had under Bielsa. And the football was so fun and the time was so good. And, you know, what he did to players that we'd previously seen that, you know, won't compete anywhere near a Premier League team, let alone then become Premier League players, which is what he created. I think a lot of fans have just got an unfair expectation of what this team and Farke should be able to do together, expecting, you know, like, you know what I think of Bielsa, I put him up there with the best managers in the world, given the circumstances. The circumstances have to be a particular. I think Klopp's the same as that though, Gaz. Again, to kind of reference Klopp, I think Klopp needs a certain set of circumstances, football club, fan base. Bielsa's the same, and I think you can't just have that. We didn't have it for the 15, 20 years before that, and we're likely not going to have it for the next 50 years after. You know, Daniel Farke is the best we could hope for, and you know he's got a track record of doing that. So I think it's the two cases, because I do think there is a desperation around it. Fans know that another season of this, if we were to miss out on promotion again, probably means, or could well mean, that we'd be in and around the 6th to 10th battle. It becomes more and more difficult every season that goes past. So, but you know, finding complaints, I've just got a little stat chart up on the side here. Most goals scored, second in the league behind Sunderland. Highest XG, 4, second in the league behind Middlesbrough. Average possession, top in the league. Fewest goals conceded, third in the league behind Burnley and Sheffield United, and lowest XG against, number 1. So we should actually have conceded the least amount of goals. We all know what the problem there is in between the sticks. Yeah,
Do we, Jay?
What we do. Well, I mean, you know my opinion towards one of the centre backs,
Yes.
but you know, we still have the most clean sheets in the division, and Pascal and Joe and Bogle and Firpo, they make part of that defence. I think a lot of it's got more to do with the fact of we keep hold of the ball for a long time. And we don't give the opportunities away. You know, we don't give the ball away very often. We have 2 fantastic defensive midfielders in Ampadu, Gruev, and then Tanaka, with Rothwell alongside him, proving brilliant in front of that back four. And then the defence itself, you know, Rodon and Struijk. Never have I said that they're not good defenders. They're great defenders. I love Joe Rodon, and I just think Pascal's got deficiencies that he can work on. I think I know what you're referring to here. When it comes to this social media battle that I seem to be having around Pascal, people just seem to gas him up into being this top 10 Premier League centre-back, and he's just not. That's my... Anyway, that's a different kettle of fish. So, yeah, you know, reading through them stats, if you can't be happy with them as a Leeds fan, what can you ask for?
I think there's
It also, just quickly before Downsy comes in, you mentioned social media there. I think that's a really key point, because people like to say things, slagging the team off or moaning about something gets more interactions on social media than praising it. It's the same with anything in this world. And I think I was just wanting to make that point there. Like your fan channels, your super fans on social media will make these points to drive interactions. And I think
Great.
It's just a case of that, especially with Leeds in the Championship, because you're a big club in the Championship. You've got a lot of that online, you know what I mean? There's a lot of online content in there. People will drive their interactions by doing things like that. Sorry, Downsy, I know you wanted to come in.
No, I was just going to make a couple of points, really, that I think is relevant. One is we kind of had something similar with Wagner and then Corberan, where it was kind of the other way around. So we had the German pragmatism under Wagner that got us up, but the team played in a certain way. It was very structured, and the football was exciting because it was like a miracle that had happened. But then when we had Corberan, the football, you could say, probably was more exciting, but it didn't bring, it brought a certain type of criticism. And I feel like that probably was because the miracle had happened, and, you know, Wagner was a certain way with supporters, and Corberan was very different. And I feel that, you know, that sort of happened with Leeds, where Bielsa's like the all-conquering god that will ever be, a bit like Wagner with Town fans. And then you've got Farke, who's, he's not as exciting to listen to. He's not as dynamic. But his football might be better. He's more structured. He's more pragmatic. But gets results. He's sort of like got that German mentality of we will destroy the opposition, but we'll do it in a very succinct sort of way. Where under Bielsa it was more chaos and more sort of kind of a way of playing. And I think once you've had the success that a manager gets with a certain set of fans, Bielsa with Leeds, Wagner with Town, I think it's very hard then to follow that and create something new and different. And I feel like Farke struggled with that. He doesn't have the connection with Leeds fans what Bielsa does. And
I don't think Farke cares.
No, he doesn't.
Farke cares about getting results.
But that goes into his whole sort of German mentality of he doesn't care, Jay. But that doesn't help, or that doesn't make him more likable from a supporter angle. Like that's what I'm saying though. Corberan didn't have an amazing sort of relationship with Town fans, but Wagner did, and I think that sometimes comes into the excitement of it. You want to listen to his press conferences every week. You want to get, you want to just be everything around that sort of manager, and I think that goes into the style of football and play as well. Like you said. I can't believe some fans have been mourning this season with the statistics that you're laying out. You are doing probably the best you've ever done in the Championship.
We are at this stage. We're dominating.
But that doesn't mean it's exciting for some Leeds fans, unfortunately. But I do get a little bit of why that is. But it's probably more to do with outside of football. Like in terms of off the pitch rather than on the pitch.
I'm just picturing a West Bromwich Albion fan stumbling over this and hearing Stephen Downs say that Corberan had an exciting football game, given that West Brom have had 8 draws in recent games.
He did compare to Wagner.
4 of them have been 0-0s as well. West Brom fan would not see Corberan as exciting.
We dominated sides under Corberan. We never did that with Wagner. But
on that point as well. Scott, people have been saying, we're not as good as Burnley, or we're not as attractive as Burnley. Scott Parker is stinking the place out with boredom over at Turf Moor. You go and have a look at some of their games, and the lack of chances that they're creating. But again, Leeds fans are just like, it's not good enough. I'm really conscious of time, so I want to kind of obviously allow you to get on, but I just do want to kind of finish on this comment and the feeling around Manor Solomon in general. And I'm going to be tactile with my words. Me and Brownie have spoke about it on air a little bit, and then we've spoke about it a lot more off air. There is a genuine sort of underlying nastiness around Manor Solomon, and it comes down to where he's from and what people think of his beliefs. And I don't. When it comes to football, a lot of people won't admit that. Chris, but I'm going to say it. Like that's what.
Yeah.
It's been there as an underlying kind of bubbling feeling around Manor Solomon since the second he was linked with Leeds United. Now at the weekend, he played fine. He probably contributed more to the whole game than Willie Gnonto did, but nobody will criticise Willie Gnonto for his performance because he's star boy and he's our player. He's not on loan from Spurs, and he's not Spurs failure because we've had Jed Spence who also failed from there. This feeling around Manor Solomon needs to stop. It needs to stop. He's only in this division because he's injury prone. He's got injury record, and if you've got a problem with that, if you've got a problem with his fitness levels. And what he can then contribute to Leeds United from a footballing perspective because of that, that's fine. But then allow him to try and get back into some sort of fitness, because I'm telling you, if he can be fully fit at this level, he will be a cheat code. The lad is unbelievably talented. He's a Premier League footballer that's had injuries, and that's why he's even in this division on loan. Yeah. So I just think, and I just kind of wanted to because Gavin's not on his own with this, and I'm not even putting Gavin in that box. I like Gavin; he comes in the stream a lot. I'm not saying that is what he. If he's simply not fit, that's fine. But then allow him to get fit. Yeah, we're not doing anything for Spurs. He's here for Leeds United for the season, right? Yeah. It's about Leeds United, and we need to try and get him fit. Yeah, I don't care about next season, what he does next season, whether he's at Leeds or not next season, this season and this season alone, especially as a third choice winger, behind Ramazani and Nonto, or Ramazani and James, whoever else you want to pick there, he's a fantastic option. And at the weekend, he still contributed. He should have had a goal if Byram had kept himself on side. He's working his way back into fitness after having a back injury earlier on with us this season after his ACL. Takes time to overcome that confidence issue of an ACL injury. So we need to get right behind him, not just be looking, just get rid of him, send him back in January. Like, no, we're not going to get a better player than Manor Solomon that'll sit on the bench. I'm telling you that now.
But when you say a nastiness, when you say a nastiness, do you mean do you mean that there's comments being personally thrown at him?
Yeah,
or it's just about his footballing ability?
No. From before Solomon even kicked a ball for Leeds, and there were Leeds fans that were, no, we shouldn't be touching him, we shouldn't be signing him. He believes this and he supports that, and for me, I'm a bit ignorant to that side of things. I choose to stay out of it because I can't control it. I can't do anything around it. So. And my understanding is that he doesn't believe in anything that is abhorrent or horrific. He was just, you can't choose what you were born into.
Yeah, exactly. You can't choose where you're from. You can't choose where you were born.
Exactly. Okay. So I choose to look at him as a footballer and a footballer alone. And I've seen what he's done at Fulham. I've seen what he did at Spurs at the beginning of last season before he got that bad injury. Bear in mind, he scored in 5 Premier League games in a row for Fulham. No player's ever done that for Fulham. And they've had some fantastic goals. Louis Saha, I think straight off top of me, some unbelievable finishers of the ball. So, he's a player. He's a proper player. And if we can get him 80% fit, he will be electric in this league. So let's just get behind him rather
give
than
him a break.
Yeah.
Let's move on then to Huddersfield Town. Mr. Downs, I mean, look, we heard earlier that you were a bit sick over the weekend. Was that just the football as well as the illness?
Thank Christ I wasn't on here last week after the Tamworth game. Although I did listen to it back, and you lads were very supportive. Well, Lou was, and Gaz, to be fair, Gaz and Lou they felt sorry for me. Chris, you not so much. But yeah, in terms of the Crawley game, listen, we thought, right, put the cup behind us, get back on the horse in the league. We've had some all right league results of late. And I thought, listen, Crawley had a basket case club going down there. Again, another example of a team that if you want to get promoted from this league, you have to go and beat, even away from home. Really. And the game was a real table sort of top of football, to be honest, in terms of it was tipsy and it was turvy. Crawley were okay. I wouldn't say that they were any better than us, but in parts when they did have their limited chances, they only had a very small XG on goal, but they did score 2 goals, and the 2 goals that they scored were horrifically defended from a Huddersfield Town point of view. So, listen, we had to get back into it. We came from behind twice. We haven't done that this season so far. Last 20 minutes, we pretty much controlled the fixture. Could have scored, missed 3 absolute sitters. I mean, how could Omer's not scored one of the headers? I'll just never know. But it ends in a draw, and I suppose the feeling that I had after it, apart from the norovirus or however you pronounce it, was one of disappointment. But then I have to look at it and go, right, well, they've had an horrific week, obviously, on the back of the cup game. And we've got a draw away from home in a team that, is a bit stodgy to play against. And to be fair, they've had some half decent results. They've beaten Lincoln 3-0. They've only lost to Wickham 1-0. So it's not like they've been beaten 4 or 5-0 every week. So that was my overriding kind of feeling, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, we I think I said to you before the game, even from my booth Saturday morning, that was like, wouldn't have surprised me for Crawley to get something. That's exactly what they did. As I say, I expected Lincoln to go down there a couple of weeks ago on Tuesday night and turn them over, and we got stuff 3-0, as you mentioned. So it's one of those places that isn't necessarily as easy as you would think to go. And also, as well, the change of manager, change of backroom staff is having a positive impact gradually.
Yeah, I think Rob Elliott's gone in there and made a few changes from what it seemed like, in terms of just even like getting on the ball, being more solid, in terms of keeping hold of possession. They seem to be a very possession sort of placed team. I wouldn't say they're magical at passing, but they could pass a ball more than 10 yards to each other, which is, what you'd expect from a League One team. So I just, in the context of Town needing to go up or trying to go up, we do need to go away to these teams and sort of put them to bed, really. The interesting thing was that League One is becoming a bit of a custard league, as I would call it. It's not necessarily exciting for the right reasons, in the fact that Northampton drew away at Birmingham. So, the results kind of didn't go massively against us, although we don't want to be, having too many of these fixtures and getting knocked behind the 8 ball with so many points, really.
This is the beauty of the League One, though. You're starting to see these results, aren't you? The fact that Northampton went to Birmingham and got something. Obviously, Crawley have held you as well. It's the beauty of League One. Gaz?
Bolton lost 4-0, I think, at Stockport as well. So
5-0 at Stockport.
5-0,
Yeah.
yeah.
Which, Everett's on the nice. Gaz, you're muted. Unmute, Gaz.
You've kind of touched on it already there. I was just going to say about League One, 2 points. Firstly, Crawley. Everyone thought that they'd be the cannon fodder in League Two last season, and look what happened. Yes, I know Scott Lindsay's gone, and people thought that him going would be cannon fodder, but you just got to be careful with Crawley because of what happened last year. They came from nowhere to go up from League Two. And the other thing you just mentioned, Stockport Bolton. Didn't Stockport get done 4 or 5-0 the game before they beat Bolton?
From Wigan,
By Wickham.
And then they've gone and they've hammered Bolton 5-0. So it just shows you what can happen in any division, but especially what looks like can happen in League One this season.
We've said that all about League One, haven't we? We've said that it's going to be one of those divisions where anyone will beat anyone on the given day, and it's proving to be the case.
Bear in mind, Downs, I mean, when we were giving the predictions before the season started, I don't think anybody were doing it from a mischievous position at all. We spent 3 seasons in that stinky division with by far the best team the division's ever seen, probably with the exception of maybe this Birmingham team this season. I mean, seriously, Johnny House and Fabian Delph, Robert Snodgrass, Jermaine Beckford, Luciano Becker, they were a championship team, for God's sake. And we spent 3 seasons in that stinkhole. But the thing is, for a Huddersfield and a Birmingham, teams just step themselves up so much. The levels that they raise themselves because of the competition, and it is a big game. Huddersfield's a big game for every single team that you play. So it's a slog, man. It's a real slog.
Yeah, I feel like the thing is, we just have to be patient, really. That it's a long season. Listen, we're only at the middle of November. I think there will be another sort of wave of incomings in January, which I know will talk at nearer the time, probably does need to happen. I think Duff's doing the best that he can with the squad that he's got. They're starting to injuries to come back. They'll probably get injured again in probably about 3 days, but they are back at the moment. Healy scored, which was great to see. I hope we can get a run of games out of him and him start to score some goals. Karoma's back as much as he should have scored that header. So there's starting to be things happening. Herbie Kane's getting more fit. I think he's a massive plus for us in the midfield. It's just, I just hate the fact that we have to go to some of these places and then expect to try and win. And then when you don't win, it's like, 3 years ago we were playing so and so, and now we're just
tiny violin with sympathy.
Yes, I know, I get it. Yeah, well done. I'm happy to accept it, and I'm accepting it all season, and probably will do next season when we don't go up.
When are you two playing each other?
14th of December, but don't even bottling it by going to bloody holiday or something, so he can't even go to the game.
I'm in the Czech Republic. I'm in the lovely city of Prague, Jay. So
I'll be there in the away end at the John Smiths.
Oh, well done. I hope you have a fantastic time and lose 3-0. But yeah, so Lou, did you have a point?
Yeah, just a question from me. I've seen Mr. Nagel's been on social media again recently talking about injured players coming back off the list, and he's also they're not afraid of pulling the trigger in January if we have to. What are your thoughts on that one?
Is that on players or management?
No, it's not on management. I don't believe it's on management. I think he's meaning it in the context of pulling the trigger to have more funds available to buy players. Listen, he doesn't want to be in this division. He just doesn't. He's no good for it. What he wants is to get back in the Championship, try and build successfully in the Championship, and probably flog the club as quick as he can to somebody who probably has more money or whatever. Interested? Yeah.
I know this is going to kind of extend things and digress slightly, but I mean, I have very vivid memories of Kevin Nagel saying he wants to try and get Huddersfield to being a Premier League club again.
Yeah, and he wants to do that as quick as possible so he can sell the club on for profit. That's obvious. I think that and that's a fair comment to say. That's what all owners want to try and do, unless you're a Tony Bloom or somebody like that. That's the best way to make profit in British football, isn't it? You know, he's last week. I don't know. You probably none of you are aware, but he has sold his majority stake in the Republic FC team in America. So he's staying on as part of being a shareholder, but he's not going to be the majority shareholder now. That's been sold to another sort of consortium of people. So that means that he probably will spend more time over here now, probably will mean that all his focus is going to be on Huddersfield Town. I think a lot of that was happening anyway, to be honest, which, you know, in some quarters of the Sacramento fan base were probably not happy about that. But as a Huddersfield Town fan, I'm not going to sort of decree that was the wrong thing to do. Going back to your point, Lou, I just think that he's happy to spend money. It's just over the time that he's spent the money, you know, because he spent more than what Dean Oil did in terms of on one singular sort of player. He spent 2 million on Ely. He spent 1.7 million on Bolker. You know, so in terms of his overinvestment, you know, Dean spent it over 14 years. Nagel spent it over 1 at 18 months, and has spent a significant amount in the transfer window. But unfortunately, the buys that we've had haven't either worked out or they've been injured. So, you know, his money hasn't been spent well, in a sense. That's what we need to get better at. And that's why there's so much discontent with Mark Cartwright, director of football at the club. I trust in Duff. I think we've got Manchester United's under-21s in the Kit Kat Fisherman's Trophy or whatever it's called tomorrow. We need to win to go through.
The joys of League One.
You know, Jay, in the last game against Barnsley, right, we had the lowest attendance that's ever been recorded at John Smith Stadium for that game a month or so ago. I think it was 1,200 people. It was less than what we had against Peterborough in 1994 for the same cup. So it just shows how fans are we're just not interested in that trophy. And I think that's fair enough, because we all know that the league is the main. I wasn't even I was bothered about being beaten by Tamworth because it's embarrassing. It is embarrassing. I sat in that bar in Malaga, in a Leeds supporter bar, by the way, which was made it even worse. You
don't want to bring that up again, mate.
I had about 20 J's round me, by the way, which is horrendous. But apart from that, in a sense, I wasn't that fussed, because it means that we've just got the league to solely concentrate on. We just need to get out of this division. I can't. It was the first time the club's ever played Crawley in its entire history at the weekend. I just can't be bothered playing teams like Crawley. I can't. I'm sorry.
Disrespectful, mate.
Disrespectful.
No, it's not, because
that's how we feel when we play you, mate.
Welcome to my world, lads. I mean, bloody hell.
I'm not saying anything against that, Jay, because I know it's a fishing bite there. But and Gaz, I realise that. I realise what I'm saying, and I'm probably being a bit of a toff for saying it. But we all have ambitions for this football club. And I'd rather not play Crawley every week, if I'm honest.
I thought that in 2010. We've played now the like above us. We've seen Yeovil go above us. We've seen Burton go above us. We've got Harrogate beating us on a regular basis. I know no one wants to be Bradford City, but
we'll get there, mate. We'll get there.
Chris, have you got any more questions about town? Because, like,
I mean, I haven't. One more question that James has put in, though. Just I think we go in the financial aspects and what we were saying about Kevin Nagel earlier. He says, "Are there loans on the club attached to the club at the moment?"
that could take
Well,
a while to
like
answer, James. But
sounds like
in
an
the
awkward
short,
yes.
in the short answer, no. According to Kevin Nagel. In the longer answer, who bloody knows, to be honest. But there are loans that are connected in terms of if we ever got to the Premier League again. You just have to look at the accounts for that. But Kevin Nagel has sort of come out and said that there aren't any directors' loans that are there at this minute in time. So just go check out the accounts, mate. They'll obviously be out in the new year as well. When it comes, so it'll be even more interesting next year to see the accounts, because that'll be another year of Kevin Nagel's ownership taking fuller charge of the football club.
Well, there we go. Let's leave Huddersfield Town at that no game, of course, for them the game against Wickham, postponed with international call-ups over the course of the
Which
weekend.
Is bollocks, by the way. I hate the fact that I hate the fact that we're taking a game off. We've got 4 players that are going on to international duty. That's it. We've got a squad. Let's just play the game.
You know what, Dan?
Well,
you wouldn't be saying that if you went and lost at weekend without them 4.
Go on, then. Off the top of your head, I appreciate putting you on the spot. Can you remember who the 4 are? How many are they?
Karoma's one of them. Brody Spencer's one of them. Callum Marshall's one of them. And I forget the 4th. We normally have 4 that
I mean,
go.
to be fair, the first 3, as you mentioned, kind of what you class as regular players, so I can see why it's ended up being, because 3's the threshold in it. So let's move on anyway. Bradford City, Gaz, you've been sitting there patiently trying to get through it with your cold and flu. How are you for a start, and how are you reflecting on a disappointing weekend, really, for the Bantams?
I'm not that bad. I don't feel overly ill. I've just got a bunged up runny nose, and every time I blow it, my nose bleeds, which is a bit annoying. So, but yeah, Bradford City didn't help at the weekend. I didn't see the game, which is why I didn't do a post-match review. It's the one time that I've probably the first time this season that I've not seen anything of the game. But I've spoken to people who went to the game, and I've spoken to, obviously, or not spoken to. Sorry, read the reviews and the match reports and the interviews and things like that, and. Yeah, the first thing I have to say is that obviously my discussion point for tonight was going to be how do we stop having these losing runs, because we've now lost back-to-back games in the league. That was obviously in between that we beat Aldershot in the cup, but the big fear for me this season is that we go on losing runs, because I think that's what cost us the playoffs last season, and the aim has to be to get at least in the playoffs this season, and we're not going to do that if we go on long winless runs. And this is the first time I think we've lost back-to-back games this season. Someone might correct me on that, but I think it's the first time we lost back-to-back games. So the nervousness is there. The problem for me on Saturday was, and I think a lot of people saw it on social media, was as soon as the team was announced on Saturday. You know me, lads. I'm a big fan of Alexander, and I often stick up for him when others have a go at him. But it was one of those moments when you saw the team line up on Saturday. It was just like, what's he doing here? What's going on here? It just looked like a bit of a mess. The team lineup, it just didn't look right. We had 2 centre halves on the bench, but we were playing 3, and 2 of those were fullbacks. We had Bobby Poynton playing at left wing back, and we had Cook and Oliver up front with Kavanagh in the 10. It was just something that just didn't look right from the start, and he opened himself up to huge criticism. Now, the game itself, I believe we started really, really slowly, which has been a problem for us in away games this season. And we got caught, went 1-0 down after 8 minutes, a penalty. And I believe we came to a bit after that and probably dominated a lot of the rest of the game without creating much. He changed the formation and rejigged things in the second half and went back to something akin to what we've been playing and played well at times this season and last season. Went back to 3-5-2, moved Bobby Poyton into midfield. I think, Clark Odewar came on at left wing back, which is a position he's played in before. Oliver went off and Kavanagh went up front, and it just looked better, apparently, in the second half. But we didn't create enough to get back into the game, and we've lost 1-0, which, like I said, just extends these worries that we're going to go on a long winless run like we've done in the past. He was asked about it after the game, and he said that the attitude and we wasn't right. It was a problem that we've had from other away games this season where we're not on it from the start and we're beaten for intensity. And when he was asked about the formation and the team lineup, because obviously that's what people have been whinging about on social media, he admitted that we were better when he changed it at half-time, but said that wasn't the reason, that we were so off it in the first 10, 15 minutes. So make of that what you will.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the stats at least, and I know stats don't tell everything, but 16 shots overall to 7, but only 4 of them on target. But then, 62% possession, which isn't necessarily something you would, you wouldn't necessarily put that to a Graham Alexander side, that actually having a possession-heavy game.
No, it's not something that you normally see. I think it probably came down to the fact that Fleetwood sat deep, kept in shape, defended what they had, and it was up to us to break them down, and we just couldn't do it. We did have a couple of sort of half chances in the second half. I think Poyton went through on a almost a one-on-one, but it was from the angle, and the keepers saved it. Cook's dragged one wide, but other than that, despite having a lot of the ball, we've struggled to break them down, which is a worry. I do believe that obviously the people. I was very critical of the team selection and the lineup because, like I say, it's not often that I'll criticise him, but he did kind of explain it to a certain extent afterwards. He said that he picked Halliday and Richards as the flanking centre-backs because he wanted to be able to cope with Fleetwood's mobility up front. And he said that Odewar wasn't ready to start, couldn't play 90 minutes. We were hinted that we were lucky to get 45 minutes out of him in the second half. He's been out for a couple of weeks with an ankle knock. So he did kind of explain it to a certain extent, but it just doesn't do him any favours. It doesn't do confidence in the club or the team or the lineup any favours when you're seeing Bobby Poyton at left wing back and you're seeing fullbacks playing at centre half with 2 centre halves on the bench. So it is a concern. And it needs to be rectified. I think it probably will be. When another caveat for Saturday was that Jack Shepherd was suspended, so we needed somebody to play left centre half. Kieran Kelly and Jack Shepherd are our 2 left centre halves. Kieran Kelly's out until the new year, and Jack Shepherd was suspended on Saturday. So you needed to play somebody there. Some people will say you should have played Paul Huntington there. I don't think you should, because I don't want to see Huntington or Byrne as a flanking centre-half. I only want to see him in the middle. They've just not got the pace to play as a wide centre-half for me. So you can see why he played Richards there. But hopefully the suspension of Shepherd, the suspension of Shepherd is up. He will be back on Saturday for Colchester. And we hopefully get a couple of the injured players back soon. I just think a lot of it is that we didn't have players available at the weekend and he had to make do with what he had. But we need to get back. For me, we just need to be playing the formation that we played at the end of last season, the 3-5-2 with Poyton and Walker as the 8s. It comes back to why he's changed that at all from the start of the season. He should be playing it. It's what worked last year, and it should be what he's playing now. And the sooner he gets back to that, he'll sort of not get the criticism from supporters that he's opening himself up to at the moment.
Downser, you're muted. You're muted, Downser.
Never mind. Right, here we go. I'm back. You talk about that the change of formation at half time, guys, from what Alexander said, and I get what he said, but to me, surely that's a worrying thing about the intensity at the start of games again. I mean, what I don't get this. Just because you sit in a certain formation doesn't mean that you can't have intensity to your play. Surely. It drives me a bit bonkers how managers say that. The players weren't intense. Well, they should be intense whether they play a 4-4-2 or 3-5-2 or 17 at back.
Well, it's
I think that's what Alexander was saying.
Different.
I think that's the point that Alexander was making, saying that like we were better when the formation changed at half time, but you can't blame the formation on the players running, the players' attitude, the players' intensity. That's got nothing to do with what formation you play. That's what Alexander was saying in his post-match interview. He said the formation is not the reason that we started the game so slowly, but this is an issue that we seem to have had quite a lot on away games this season. It's sort of in contrast to what it was last year, because last year we were having that problem in home games, and we were doing it right away from home. Now it seems to have swapped round. There's only so much, I suppose, a manager can do or a coaching staff can do to get the players to be up for it and on it from the start and not start games slowly. You've got to match a team's intensity, whoever you're playing against. And if you don't do that, you're going to be behind the 8 ball from the start. You concede an early goal because you're not at it from the start. Then you give something like Fleetwood had on Saturday. You give them something to hold on to, and that's what they did. They took that opportunity, they scored that goal, and then they sat deep, they sat in shape, and we couldn't break them down. And it's our own fault, and it's something that's happened in other away games this season. And the players can talk, and the manager can talk and say that they're ready for it, and they're not going to do it again, and it's going to be right next time. But it keeps happening, so it's up to him or the players or as a collective to make sure that they are starting games right, and they aren't starting slowly and putting themselves behind the 8 ball from the off.
And that's what happened again with Town at Tamworth. That we weren't intense, and that's why we ended up losing that game, because Tamworth were more intense than us. But I don't know what Lou and Jay's thoughts are on like players' intensity, but I know whenever I go out and play a game of football, I'm as ready as I can be for that game, and I want to do my best, and I don't understand why players are not intense. To me, you're a professional footballer. You should be intense to get ready to play a game of football.
It's the old adage, isn't it? You've got to earn the right to win any game. It's like you've got to earn the right to play. Yeah, we might have the quality in the squad, but if your attitude's not going to be right and you're not going to be at it from the off, then you're not going to win the game, regardless of how good you are.
You absolutely do, and intensity just should come from within. But I'm not fully subscribing to the fact that the tactic isn't to blame for that, because if you're asked to complete a role or work within a structure and a tactic that you're not comfortable in, you're second guessing yourself, you're wondering about what's going on behind you when you shouldn't be, and it can then be actually mistaken as looking as like you're not caring or the effort isn't there. So I'd be careful. I think it's very easy for a manager to just say, well, it weren't my fault, it weren't to do with the tactic, which just coincidentally then got much better in the second half when you changed it to something that they were more comfortable with. So I'm a little bit more in the middle with that. I don't know what Lou thinks, but that's how I see it.
You took words out of my mouth. I was going to say exactly the same, mate. But I also think sometimes, and I find it, I don't know if it's a bit of because they feel they've got a little bit of power and authority, and I could be off the mark here, but I think sometimes they do it as a test to see how the players can potentially react to a really unknown and unpredictable situation, which doesn't help you in some respects. No. In certain scenarios, it does. An example would be you go down to 10 men, you lose your left back, so you probably might have to shuffle a couple of players about, and Pointer might have to go left back, and that sometimes can cover up, put a sticky plaster over a bit of a graze for that time being. But when you start in a game, it just feels a little bit awkward, a bit disjointed. And I think, honestly, sometimes some managers, I think, do it as a little bit of a test to see actually what my player's attitude, what can I get out with him, and actually it feels like it's a real test. And if it doesn't always work, then they go back to plan A, which is kind of what they probably could have done in the first time. And I agree with you. I think there's got to be an accountability on the manager as well as the players, because the players still do have a job, and take the whole they're paid enough money, all that full time. That's crap. At the same point, if you're a striker and you're being asked to do a left wing back role, that is very different, and that is something you're not used to doing. I mean, I'm seeing like comments here about you saying Alexander not picking for the first time, and Cook should be embarrassed playing against teenage defenders. Right? Hang on a minute. Andy Cook's kept you in this division, and other players, if they'd have been up to the caliber of what Andy Cook's been doing for the past 2 years, you won't be in League Two. I get it. It's one game. It must be annoying, and I appreciate that. Must be frustrating, but hang on a minute. Andy Cook has been Mr. Bradford City in terms of on the field for the past year or two. So it's hard. It's hard when you're outside looking in and you're used to watching it week in, week out. There's a very different perspective, but it's not ideal. You've had a bit of a stutter. Alexander still will probably just about get you in and around the playoffs, if not in that playoffs at the end of the season. Other teams are probably have got better individual players, I'd argue, but I think City squad as a whole will probably just get you about there. The biggest test again is Alexander's got to keep consistent with his selection of players. He's got to keep players in form and also use that low market in January so shrewdly, because if that for me is going to be the difference between Bradford City getting in the playoffs and not.
And I get that, Lou. I get what you've said, and I sort of like do subscribe to a lot of it. But to me, that's bonkers. That just makes absolutely no sense by a manager.
What's
and
bonkers?
The bonkers bit is that a manager would do something at the start of a game to test his players. Like you playing for points. I don't think you can. And I agree, managers probably do it. I'm not saying what you've said.
This is why they lose their jobs.
I just think it is bonkers that a manager would do that at the start of a game where you've got to get 3 points to move up the division to achieve what you want to do. Do you know what I mean? It's not like
I could be so wrong, Downs. I could be sorry, Jay, but I could be so wrong. This might not be the case, but I have seen in some points in points of games all the years I've been watching football that some managers do that, and also. We're not in that position. Pressure on managers is ridiculous. Like sometimes you see these crazy decisions that people make, and you're like, I don't understand what you're doing. But we're not in that scenario. And listen, and you can see there's a little bit of a crack there that's appearing, and that's for Graham Alexander and his coaching team to sort out. But yeah, I think there's elements of certain scenarios where I think the managers do test the players, and whether it's right or wrong, it's hard. But we've also got to take a little bit of a step back out of this. That it's not ideal to lose a game, and it could have a contributing factor to City losing this game if that was the case, or in this scenario. But this is a 46-game season. That this season isn't going to be defined on one game. It's a cog. It's a part of it. But this season isn't defined on Fleetwood away. It's defined over the rest of the 45 games. And I think Alexander, I'd be surprised if he goes back to what's apparently suggested on Saturday. And if he does, then City fans will come out because you know what, like.
Yeah. I just want to say, I know we need to move on, Chris, but just real quickly on this. This is the difference for me between the everyday average Football League manager and the very, very top managers. And just to hark on Bielsa for a second, and again, the top guys at the top of the pyramid, your Klopps, your Peps, they don't devise plan B, plan C, plan D in a different formation. They make plan A work better. So when Calvin Phillips used to be out, who was the integral cog, they didn't change the system. He brought Pascal Struijk in there and did something. He did the same role to the best of his ability. They played Stuart Dallas at left back when we needed him, but the same formation. You don't just undo 11 roles and 11 players because of one or two, injuries or suspensions. You make plan A work with what you've got. And that's probably what you're seeing at the weekend, mate, in my opinion.
Working out for Russell Martin at Southampton, though, that isn't it?
Yeah, but that's different because the levels are different down there. He's
no, but your point still. I'm not saying you're wrong. I think you're right. But what I'm saying is, some managers stick to their plan so aggressively much that it just defines them as a manager and then don't work.
I agree. Yeah, I agree with that. But I actually think that is a more successful, sustainable route long term. The problem with Russell Martin's football is that once it gets to that level where the gap in footballers is such that it is in the Premier League from the Championship, it's never going to work. It's impossible that it works. So that's the difference. But you're right. And I think Bielsa's
Company at Burnley was the same, wasn't it?
Company at Burnley was.
No, but this is a point I'm making, is that this is across the whole season. Yeah. And we're seeing examples like what happened with Burnley. We're seeing it at the moment with Southampton. It isn't based on one game. You can see the pattern of what that's going through, and it's not defined on just one game.
But it's okay, because that's the type of bollocks that gets you the Bayern Munich job. Gaz, obviously looking ahead to the weekend, and obviously a trip to Colchester managed by our Lord and Saviour, the almighty Danny Cowley, who would never have got Huddersfield Town relegated if they'd stuck with him. Gaz, look, I mean, to be fair, Colchester are not pulling up the trees that I thought they would this season. So for you guys, another opportunity to go on the road and get back to winning ways.
Yeah, I think so. Our record at Colchester isn't great, which doesn't fill me with confidence at all. They seem to always do well against us. I think, just to finish off on what Jay and Lou and Downsy were saying there, I think what Jay said spot on. I think you start changing the formation, you're going to have issues with intensity because players are doing things that they're not used to doing. Now, I do, like I say, I criticised Alexander on Saturday for the formation. It was one of those where you wonder if he was doing what Lou said. It just didn't look right. It was just like, what on earth has he done here? I think I called it a hodgepodge of a formation on Twitter. It just didn't look right at all. Like, what is he doing? But like I say, afterwards, he kind of explained, Ottawa wasn't available. We knew Shepherd wasn't available. We know we've got injuries at left wing back, and for the number 8s, we have a shortage of number 8s. So if you're moving Pointing to left wing back, you're another number 8 down. But yeah, I think looking at Saturday, how we line up on Saturday will tell us whether it was just because Shepherd and Ottawa were available and on top of everybody else not being available. If you can get back to 3-5-2, like I say, and we can get our players back and we can get back to playing the formation that we're used to playing and where we look at our best, then we are a match for anybody, and there's no reason we can't go to Colchester and win. So, yeah, it all depends on availability for me and who's available and whether we can play what we need to play. If we can do that, we can win the game. If we can't and we're another hodgepodge, then we'll struggle and we'll probably lose.
We'll see what Saturday brings. Moving on then to non-league. Lou, another, as always, busy weekend in the non-league scene across our region. We'll start from the top and work his way down. So that leads us to FC Halifax Town, and for them, a win at the Shea 1-0 against Woking.
Yeah, 1-0 victory. First clean sheet at home as well at the Shea, so that's a big plus for the Sherman. It's a tidy win. I know they've not got points out the past 2 games, and that's what they wanted to rectify. And it's one of those going right back to the beginning. We're talking about Leeds United in terms of dominating and sometimes being boring. You've just got to do the basics well, and that's what Town did at the weekend. Kept it really resolute, and they were very effective in what they did. And it's a classic result in it for Halifax Town is a 1-0, not a snatch and grab. Just get out of there and get the job done. Get 3 points and just keep in and around that shout. 2 points away from the playoffs just from Yeovil. Catching around the teams around them who are starting to slip a bit. You only have to look at the likes of Gateshead, who've lost the past 2. Barnet have, 1 in 5 as well. Halifax, keep saying it, they do a remarkable job. Millington does not get the credit he deserves in a wider football community. Again, we talk about the casual fans and those who, a bit more clued up, a bit more knowledgeable. Millington is going to, at some point, get an EFL job because he works miracles at Halifax Town with the finances and the resources they've got. And for him to be 8th above the likes of Solihull, Altrincham, Sutton United in mid-table. We saw what Tamworth did. I know they've got 2 promotions, but FC Halifax Town at the moment, leading the way. Yeah, I just got that in. Yeah, kind of leading that way, and will be there or thereabouts again as normal. So yeah, it's a solid victory against Woking, who were struggling at the wrong end of the table compared to last season. But it's not looking too bad, I don't think, for Halifax.
Farsley Celtic. 2 words, and then it's a case of where the hell do you go from there? Let's look on the pitch. A defeat on the road at Aggborough. Kidderminster Harriers beat them by 1-0. Now, they've slipped. They've been slipping, shall we say, actually, rather for some time. Obviously, when the change of management was made, there was a couple of good results for Pavsey when he first took over, but recent form has hit the skids, and they are now just 3 points above the bottom 4.
They are, but I will counteract this, that the National League North is an absolutely ridiculous league when you look at the points in terms of difference. So for those who are unaware, from second, Scunthorpe on 29, you go down to Farsley in 18th, and there's 9 points difference. That is it.
Wow.
9 points difference. So listen, they've been slipping and sliding for a couple of weeks now, which isn't been ideal. Yes, they're 3 points away from the drop zone at the moment, and the likes of Radcliffe have picked up. But when you look at it, and the 7 points potentially away from the playoffs at the moment, with about over a quarter of a way gone. If you'd have said to Farsley Celtic fans, would you take 18th right now? They absolutely would. And if they do stay up, will still be an unreal achievement. But what I will say is that the recent form is concerning. Listen, what 1 in 5, which was a magnificent victory at Kings Lynn. But I think, which we'll probably go on to a little bit in and out, that win can only go so far. With kind of what's with the bubble that is Fars and Celtic in a moment.
I mean, look, talk us through everything that's happening off the pitch at the moment, because there was the statement from the Supporters Trust, if I'm right in thinking there, if I'm right in saying, Lou, which was released, was that last week? Just fill us in briefly on what that said from the Supporters Trust perspective.
Oh God, you put me on the stop. Basically, they don't like the owner. Pretty much, it's like it was basically a motion of no confidence.
Yeah,
I think there was potentially around 50 or 40 or 50 supporters apparently turned up and gave a vote of no confidence. This is all going on at the same time. While just to give it a bit of context, Farsley Celtic haven't played at home for. I don't know the amount of games. I'm saying it's about 20, I think, maybe 15, 20 games. The ground sharing at the moment with Buxton, which is 70 miles away. They had a prior breakdown with Bradford Park Avenue because they were ground sharing at Horsefall. Previously to that, they actually played one game at Alfreton. The issue, apparently, whether this is true or not, was to do with the league wanted Farsley to have precedent over Avenue to play at the Horsefall Stadium, which Avenue didn't agree with, which you can understand.
Understandably, it's their stadium.
Whether that's true, I don't know. But so anyway, it's gone on. And literally, while we've been on air tonight, Farsley have released a statement on their Facebook. I will not go through it because it will take the rest of your night. I would urge people to go and read it. But essentially what they've done is they've gone to address some inaccurate, misleading and defamatory comments issued on social media, and that have been positioned or taken as fact. So I will urge people, they've basically put 10 points together, which range from the situation with the pitch to the relocation to potential issues of payments and stuff like this. Basically, go and read it because we haven't got the time to go through it tonight.
I'm going to assume they haven't made it easy and put any short bullet points there. It's all big paragraphs in each section, I'm assuming.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm going to say this on our show. It would be great to get Paul Bamford from Farsley Celtic on.
Yeah, this is an open
because
invitation.
we want to hear what's going on. There's only so much that we can report that we don't know of. And, you know, we're only saying what's been said from Farsley Celtic as a club officially. So it would be great to kind of get a better understanding because there's stuff going around social media that at the moment, Farsley, there's just so much to it. And it's like unpicking a spider's web. So, yeah, go and read that statement tonight. There's quotes from the head of the deaf team and the head of the ladies section as well. So it's a very well thought through piece from the club. And I will say that the communications team at Farsley Celtic have been probably doing overtime based on this statement. You just keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. But at the end of the day, they've just signed off with agree with everyone, like everyone. That doesn't really matter at the end of the day. We're all Farsley Celtic. So let's see what happens. Come next week, let's see if there's any progress on the pitch, which potentially could happen because they're saying that there's maybe something happening this week of development on the pitch. So let's see what happens. But yeah, it would be great to get a representative from Farsley as an official on and actually speak about it because there's a lot going on. And I think, you know, there's people wanting to know the full situation because people are asking us questions and we can't really answer it because we haven't got the people in the know to do it.
I just wonder, Lou, whether all the stuff that's happening, which is it sounds like a lot, and we know it's a lot from what we've talked about previously. But do you feel like that is now having an adverse effect with what's going on the pitch? The league is, but it must be starting to affect, you know, management and players now. Definitely has to have an effect.
Well, sorry to interject, Lou. We know for a fact that obviously we talked on, I think, either last week or the week before about the fact that this relocation to Buxton has already had an impact on the squad in terms of 2 or else 3 players that have basically been forced to leave the club because they cannot cope with the 70-mile travelling to home games, etc., and training, etc. So I mean, for a start, that's a starting point, I guess, Lou, of how it's impacting on the pitch as well.
Listen, I know we're talking about Farsley, but let's put ourselves in our own situation with our own clubs. If you're a fan or a player or an official and you're being asked to play your home game 70 miles away, I know in my personal opinion that would have an effect on me as a supporter and potentially as a volunteer. It would, because when you've agreed to work, volunteer, support a team that could be down the road, and instead you're potentially having to go an extra hour and a half to Buxton. Regardless whether it's easy or not to get to is a completely different issue. It's 70 miles away potentially. It's a fair distance. You've potentially got people who may live locally, who may just pop round the corner and walk around to the ground on a Saturday or a Tuesday night. They can't do that. They may not be able to go to midweek games and may not be able to travel to that far as Buxton, regardless of whether the club are putting on, transport or whether that's funded is a different issue. If I'm in that situation, it would affect me. I'd probably still be going because I'm mad. But what I'm saying is you'll get some people who will go, I can't do that. From a work life, from a family life, just from that perspective. So has it affect Downsy? I can't answer Farsley. I can only say if it was me, it would do. What would be interesting, like I've mentioned earlier, it'd be good to hear somebody from Farsley come on the show and kind of talk about it, and let's kind of get some transparency between it, because obviously there's a bit of conflict happening at the moment, and it would be to get some kind of perspective and kind of just idea of what's going on and what this looks like, because it has been a major blip for him in terms of off the field stuff. Not being able to play at home is not easy. And listen, they've had a really good FA Cup run. They started the season really well. I mean, obviously we've changed managers, so it's been a little bit of just kind of chaos. But despite this, they're not bottom of the league. They're not out of this league at all. And the size of the club compared to other clubs, they're absolutely punching well above the weight. So there's give and take and everything on this. But it would, like I said, it'd be great to get somebody on from Farsley to just understand a little bit more what's happening and actually what does the rest of this year look like. Because what we do know at the moment in terms of on the pitch is that up until December, they've agreed to play at Buxton. There's an extension possibly until the end of the season if needed, but we're confident they're going to play back at Farsley at some point this season. So let's see what happens. But yeah, it's not ended tonight just because of that statement. It will go on.
What kind of attendances are they getting for the home games down there, Lou?
I don't think there's been a lot. I think when they played at Horsfall, I think we're about 150, which is going to be similar, I'm guessing, at Buxton. Obviously, they don't have the issue to kind of take precedent because Buxton are in the same league, so they might kind of go, alternate weekends and stuff like that. But I can't imagine it's going to be a lot. The one thing for me is, what does it look like? Yes, we have a kind of a 3G, 4G pitch, but what comes of it when the colder weather, it starts to freeze, because those pitches do freeze. People call them all weather pitches. They're not all weather pitches. It's just people using the wrong terminology. When it gets cold and it's frozen just like any pitch. So what happens when those games get postponed and I might have to move it midweek and I might have to shuffle it around with Buxton? That's going to be a real test in terms of attendances and how much of that hardcore support are going to be there. But listen, they're going to struggle to probably get, I don't know. I think they'll struggle to get 300-400 and probably 50 home fans. But I mean, the thing is that people in this division are having they travel up and down the country anyway. There's such a big, you guys know, the mileage is crazy, and there's quite a few based in the Midlands and kind of actually just south of the Midlands who might find it a little bit easy to get to Buxton, but it's still not an easy place to go. So they're not getting a massive amount, Jay, and they won't get as much as what they'd get at the Citadel. So that's going to have an effect.
Yeah. Let's move on then into the Northern Premier League. And for Guiseley, it was obviously disappointment for them in the FA Cup the week before. But league games back to winning ways. A late 92nd Jordan Thewlis winner saw a 1-0 win away at Mickleover Sports. Yeah,
and got to say really good management from Matt Bauer. Basically gave him the Tuesday off after the cup exploits. You can imagine both physically, but just mentally as well. It must absolutely have drained them, that Stevenage game. And basically, they've come out and said they deserve to win the game. It wasn't spectacular. They've just done what they needed to do. There's no better way than going away from home, keeping a clean sheet and nicking it in the last minute. and now they're fully focused on the league. Yes, they're not in the playoffs, but they do have a few games in hand. One coming tomorrow night at home to Prescott Cable. So Guiseley are looking up, and one benefit for them is that Lewis Whittam's come back after 20 months out as well.
Yeah,
he made an appearance for 10 minutes, who on his day is arguably one of the best players in this league. So it's one to keep an eye on, because he probably will get a few extra minutes, possibly tomorrow night. And with somebody like Lewis Whittam coming back, that feels like it's a new signing at such a perfect time, considering what they've done already this season, how far they've gone in the FA Cup, and a disappointment of being knocked out of the FA Cup in that way. And now they almost get a new player back, at the same time as winning in a last minute away from home. So when stuff kinds to fall in place, it just seems to do that, doesn't it? And you sense that at Guiseley.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic for Lewis Whittam. I say 20 months out is just a hell of a long time. And I say before he suffered that injury as well, he was really doing well for Guiseley. He's been a really good signing as well at Nethermore. So it'll be great for him to kind of be getting back to action, getting some minutes. Into the MPL East then, Lou.
Yeah, so kind of results from our local area. Quite a few surprises. The top end of the table didn't really do as well for this weekend. So the teams who have kind of caught up a little bit more, Garforth picked up an amazing victory at Emily 2-0. Emily's still struggling, with squad issues and injuries and what have you. So Garforth to go there and win 2-0 is a really good result. I noticed Emily came out with a statement. Again, really professional, really well-worded statement from the club previously to the Garforth game, just to keep everybody level-headed despite a couple of bad results, and not even bad results. One of them was a draw at Bradford Park Avenue, so it was just a really well-positioned statement. Ossett United under James Walshaw unfortunately suffered a 3-0 defeat, but again, for those who are familiar with ourselves in the channel, Wally's starting to get his own players in. Even a certain Mr. Ollie Johnson's put back on his boots to help Ossett United out, which is fab. Ryan Tolson, who we had on last week, his team got a really, really good victory against North Ferriby, 1-0. He's already made a couple of changes to his squad. And Bradford Park Avenue lost to Newton Aycliffe 3-1, who were the best form team in the division. That's 5 wins on the bounce for Newton Aycliffe, and ends Avenue's run of 9 games unbeaten.
Yeah, I mean, look, Lou, you were there at Newton Aycliffe, was it?
Yeah.
As tough a place to go as you expected for a start?
Yeah, tough. You can tell that team have been together a long time and gotten promotion, done extremely well. And Avenue was second best. There was no doubt about it. Newton Aycliffe fully deserved a victory. Speaking with my own views, I saw some decisions which was baffling. But again, that's not just in our game. That's across the pyramid from the Premier League downwards. But the thing is, once you start making them decisions, the other team does the same thing, and it happened on Saturday. There were 2 occasions when there were a moving ball. It wasn't just rolling; it was moving. 2 quick free kicks were taken to the team's advantage. They were let go, and then early in the second half, the opposite team did exactly the same and got away with it. So it's one of those where you see it's not and I know Craig Elliott mentioned it in his interview end of the game. It's not being bitter at all, because Avenue fully deserved to lose that game, and 3-1 was a very fair reflection. But it probably does highlight a little bit more when you lose. Let's be brutally honest about that. But yeah, I mean, what's 9 games? Unbeaten run is finished, just outside the playoffs. But yeah, there's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of work for a lot of teams to do. You've seen a couple of teams drop off. Emily, for instance, Cleethorpes had a surprise loss to Bishop Auckland. Stocksbridge still keep just performing miracles in that league at the moment, despite their financial situation at the beginning of the season. It's going to be really, really tight. And what I do potentially suspect is that there's going to be quite a few teams in that market, I think, in the next few weeks up to Christmas, making a few changes, because it's going into that festive period, and we all know it's busy, especially in non-league. It's going to be every point is going to be worth probably double it.
Can I just make a quick point on Emily, Chris? Just very quickly, like, people have to, and Lou, you mentioned about the statement. People have to remember that this club has built over 5 years and come from the depths of what, in Emily's case, is absolute despair, and the squad has been absolutely decimated with quite injuries, knocks, and things like that. So for the start of the season that they've had, for people to be slightly moaning about the fact that they've had a few bad results and they're going through a sticky patch, I think he's a bit mad, really. You know, Richard Tracy's doing his absolute best. I know I work very closely behind the scenes with the club in terms of the way that everybody's trying to stick together and really move the club forward. And I think just people need to think sometimes where the club has come from and how far it's actually come in quite a short space of time. So, and the other thing is, I don't know, Lou, if you saw this, but Sam Pashley's moved on and gone to Galway United. He's been there a couple of seasons now and a bit of a favourite at Emily, so they'll be sad to see him go.
Yeah, exactly.
Into the NCL. A couple of the NCL sides were involved in FA Vars action. Silsden, obviously, they got a good win over Ramsbottom United, Lewis, 2 goals from Katie Stewart. But the big game in the FA Vars to talk about was the 5-all thriller between Albion Sports and Padiham. A remarkable comeback for Albion Sports in that one. They were 4-1 down at one point.
4-1 down. I mean, this is kind of stuff you see in like Football Manager stuff, don't you? I mean,
Royal
you can't
Rovers.
Yeah, you can't make it up. I mean, you go into the last 10 minutes. So, like you say, they were 4-1 down. Bring it back to 4-2 on 82 minutes. Venice scored on 87. Paddingham scored at 90. I mean, Albion scored at 90 as well. It's just mental. I mean, Albion win 5-3 on penalties as well. So it's even tight there. So, 5-all full time. Albion Sports winning penalties. Their reward is to go to Liverpool in the next round away from home, which is winnable. Based on Albion Sports' form. And then Silsden, ironically, go to the team who knocked them out of the FA Cup, West Didsbury and Charlton. So they'll be wanting a little bit of revenge in the FA Vars. So 2 great results. But yeah, I've said this countless times, and I'll keep saying it. Albion Sports continue to amaze me. Such a team that have got a real good spirit about themselves and good individual players, but as a collective, they just do it. They just do the job. So yeah, a phenomenal piece of work from our teams in the FA Vars.
Yeah, this is. I mean, look, we were talking earlier about to be honest, the state of football on the whole, and I was saying that, in my opinion, it almost works that the more entertaining it is, the further down you go. And look, for the 124 hardy souls that were there at Albion Sports, that's a game that they'll never ever forget. In the NCEL Premier Division, then Campion, they suffered a heavy home defeat against Beverley, but good wins for Eccleshill and for Golkert, Lou.
Yeah, so like Dan's mentioned there about Pashley going to Golkert, winning 2-1 at Pickering, not an easy place to go. Eccleshill pulling out a really, really good victory against Penistone Church, who were fighting for the title pretty much. So Eccleshill are just slowly climbing up the league and up to about 11th now. Golkert doing a thing just like they always do. So 2 points now behind Sills in the league with the same amount of games played. Penistone have played 3 or 4 games more than everybody else around them as well. So it's getting tight. We mentioned it last week, didn't we, slightly, that some of the tables in all our divisions starting to take shape. And you can see that in the NCL Premier, it's just starting to just change a little bit. The dial's being turned up a little bit. Campion will be really disappointed with that result, especially with the teams around them are winning. But yeah, I mean, Silsden and Golkert at the moment are the teams to watch out for.
Absolutely. In Division 1, a defeat for South Leeds. They lost to Brigtown by 4-0. And then a surprise defeat for Horbury, who are the league leaders, Lou, at home to Ilkley Town. Ilkley Town with a 2-1 win that moves Ilkley up to 4th and into the playoff places. Yeah,
massive result for Ilkley. I mean, after a pretty dodgy run of games from kind of October, they won the last game in the league against Harrogate Railway and then pull out a magnificent victory against Horbury, who, you know, I don't know if they've been beaten this season, but they've been absolutely flying, like we've mentioned earlier. So it just shows that they're not invincible after all. They can be got at, and Ilkley benefit from that unbelievable start to the season, climb all the way to 4th with a game in hand on the leaders, even though they are, you know, I think 16 points drift of Horbury. But it's a real good. Yeah, it's a real good. It's probably positive for the league in some respects. It shows that it can be got at. I said it again last week as well. Wakefield, just watch them fly. There was a statement come out from them about the recent manager change and changes off the field and on the field. Wakefield will be up there or thereabouts. They're absolutely flying. If there's a team that are in form, it's Wakefield in our local area.
Yeah, they won 5-1 at Armthorpe. It is mad for Horbury, though. 50 points from 20 games. And as you say, currently sitting 18 points clear of second place Durnan District at the moment and 21 points clear of Woonwell Town, who sit third. Into the Northwest Counties then, Lou, to wrap it up.
Yeah, so Steaton got a last-minute victory. Josh Cole with a last-minute winner as well. So that's a big win for Steaton. Yeah, huge win, especially with what they've been going through in the past few weeks as well. And so yeah, I mean that was a huge positive. And then the rest of them, yeah, it's just such a struggle in it at the moment. When you look at the league table, they're kind of just fighting between themselves, which is difficult for our region to watch, especially when we know what quality of the Northwest Division is like. We just want him to do a little bit, just try and do a tiny bit better. But yeah, it's a difficult, but it's good for Silsden. I'm trying to get the other scores on this.
Barlick, they won at St Helens.
St Helens, didn't they? That was it. Yeah, 1-0 at St Helens, which is a really good, solid victory. And Route 1, I don't think played, did they, off the top of my head? I don't think they played this weekend.
Yeah, they had a weekend off, but I believe, as I quickly refresh my page and switch to the league table, that it does put Route 1 in a little bit of a precarious position. They are 6 points adrift of safety as it stands because of Steaton's win, but they do have 2 games in hand. Yeah. So it's sadly after last season where Route 1 were very much in that playoff race and Steaton were, for a lot of the season, actually just outside the playoffs. It is a season that's more of a dogfight for both of the sides that are residents at Marley Park.
Yeah, it's tight. I mean, if Route 1 pick up them victories, it's a big bonus. I mean, again, we talked about the league earlier in the National League North. It's the same in the Northwest First Division North. You go from Steaton in 15th up to Darwin, who were 10th, and there's 3 points separating the teams, so you can swap positions pretty quickly in that division. You probably need an unbeaten run of 3 or 4 games just to kind of put yourself a little bit at ease. There's a massive split in this league, and it has been for quite a couple of years, but especially this level, from 10th downwards, there's, apart from Skelmersdale, who were pretty much down and out, there's 9 points separating them, and then from 10th to 9th is 10 points separated. So the gap's getting bigger, I think, in terms of that split. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those where Steaton and Route 1 will just want to do the best and survive now. That's top and bottom of it, let's be brutally honest. And they've got enough calibre and quality in them team in that squad to do that. So fingers crossed they will. But yeah, we said it, didn't we? Last minute winners are always the best.
Absolutely. That rounds us up nicely from the non-league scene. There's 1 or 2 fixtures, I think, taking place tomorrow night and Wednesday night across the region. Do check out the relevant league websites for all the fixture information. Any other business, lads, or are we going to wrap it up there?
Gracias, por favor.
Yeah, seems like a good time to wrap it up, man.
There we go.
Yep. Let's
do just that then. Jay and Brownie, they won't be on with the lead show, I'm guessing, this week because there's no game at the weekend to preview.
No game to preview, but we will try and get back to it now. Hopefully we can get stuff together for regular reviews because the last couple of weeks have been a bit nuts. But yeah, we'll be back with Leeds content as soon as the dull crap international break is done. The last one, 3 already before the end of November is just ridiculous. But yeah, we'll be back.
And Downsy, at some point, I'm sure you'll get the lads on to do something town-based.
Yeah, during the international break, I'm sure, whether we want to do something to review the game against Man United, I don't know, but we'll see. We'll see. Just check out the channel. Keep following us every day. Go on the YouTube channel. Make sure that there's no new videos.
Or if there is, watch them. There we go.
Yeah, exactly.
A big thank you to everyone that's got in touch and commented over the course of the evening. Big thank you to everyone that's joined me tonight. Lewis Sale, Jason Booker, Stephen Downs, and Gareth Walker. I've been Chris Bell. Enjoy the rest of your evening, though, whatever you get up to, and we'll see you soon here on the West Yorkshire Football Show. Good night.